Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on the 6th of May. We come live to you at 8 a.m. every single morning on the New Zealand Sports Radio. It's your best way to start the day up to date with all of the important sports news. And in news today, English football in a £200 million hole. The Warriors hit the ground running. Australians to the rescue. We have a new All Blacks captain and the Tour de France, a dates move yet again. Straight into that football news, and in football, all over in the UK, there have been a series of discussions with Parliament about the state of different sports. Rugby union was there, as was football, cricket, and a few Sports UK and Sports England. And during that, it came out that the English Football League clubs, so that's the group beneath the Premiership, could be facing a £200 million hole by September. That is an awful lot of money. And the threat of relegation for the top flight, if that's removed, that'll be very messy as well, because that means obviously those teams at the top of the English Football League who have invested to get promotion and the extra cash that happens in the Premier League may not get promoted. And so there is an awful lot of problems there at that level. It's been known that level does run, close to the wire for a number of years, trying to keep up with the Premiership. And that is obviously causing a lot of those clubs problems. And it's unknown as to quite how many of the clubs will go under. And it was interesting to see it was how many, not if, there. The PFA, or the Players Football Association, have come out and suggested that football, the halves could be less than 45 minutes each, because of the number of games that they're going to try and fit in. The Premier League says it's not, that the idea is not on the table. So interesting there that the Players Association and the league have different views. We've seen that before, haven't we, in a number of different sports. So we'll see what happens there, but a lot of concern around player welfare, obviously, from the PFA. And that is the football news for today. I'm going to hand you over to Archwin for our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning, listeners and viewers out there. Now, just correcting there, it's actually New Zealanders to the rescue. Sorry if I gave that to you wrong, Paul. So Brendan McCullum is basically calling for greater New Zealand involvement in the Big Bash. Signs being positive in Australia for some sort of cricket season, if not a full cricket season, sort of formulating for this coming summer. They're quite optimistic even for the World T20. And with India series looking pretty strong to happen as well, Brendan McCullum is saying, well, it's going to be difficult to get overseas players into the Australian Big Bash due to quarantining or just approval from governments. So let's look at getting the New Zealanders over there and more of them playing in their Big Bash teams as the overseas professional. The idea might hit a snag, though, because NZC is looking to supercharge their own Super Smash. It's just super everywhere, isn't it? And that's to include the Black Caps players. Now, it's going to be difficult to get international teams coming to New Zealand. Again, the same reasons as Australia, looking at those quarantines and government approvals. And so NZC is looking to do some supercharged Super Smash series, as well as some internal sort of north-south type clashes as well. And if they go ahead, then NZC would be a bit sort of hesitant to allow New Zealand players to go play in the Australian Big Bash. Anyway, we'll see how that all unfolds over the coming months. And as Paul has alluded to, last night, our time, in England, they had a meeting for COVID-19 Sports Cultural Committee, and England Cricket was there, and they have basically tabled that they will be losing £380 million if this season doesn't go ahead at all. So they're asking for the committee to loosen some of the government restrictions, allowing them to play the game behind closed doors. You can see with those numbers being bandied around why the ECB is desperate to have some cricket happen this summer, English summer. They've even spoken to Ireland to move their series, which was due for September, to a bit earlier, allowing for Australia to have a hastily arranged tour in that September window to sort of further open those coffers, or fill the coffers, I should say. And just an FYI for tomorrow night's Swinging from the Hips show, we're hoping to get a guest on, Tosif Sati from Tas Cricket. Now, he's quite well versed, I should say, in Pakistani cricket, and would like to get his view on what's happening there, particularly in light of what appears to be on the surface a rather harsh penalty handed down to Umar Akmal for his indiscretion. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get that locked in today, and that'll be Tosif Sadi from Tas Cricket, just filling us in on how Pakistani cricket works and the cogs. That's our cricket news for today, Paul.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. And I'm going to hand you straight over to Stephen, who will take us through our birthday for today.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning, everybody out there. Just the one birthday this morning. Eric Gordon Murray, born 6th of May 1982, is a retired New Zealand rower and gold medalist at the 2012 London Olympic Games, as well as at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games. He won 4 consecutive World Rowing Championship gold medals and set 2 world best times. In 2009, he teamed up with Hamish Bond in the men's coxless pair, a partnership that would see the dynamic duo win 7 world titles and 2 Olympic golds. In 2013 New Year's Honours, Murray was appointed a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to rowing. In 2018, the International Rowing Federation awarded Murray and Bond the Thomas Keller Medal for their outstanding international rowing career. It is the sport's highest honour and is awarded within 5 years of the athlete's retirement, acknowledging an exceptional rowing career and exemplary sportsmanship. Well, the big man, who stands at 6'5", is 38 today, and what a dynamic duo they were. Hamish Bond, of course, a little bit shorter at 1.89 metre. I think that works out to 6'2", but they knew how to pull it together when they jumped on a rowing skit. That's the birthday for today. A very happy birthday to Eric Murray.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that. And moving on to rugby news. On 2 days ago now, unfortunately, former All Black and Marlborough Red Devils legend Alan Sutherland passed away in South Africa. He was 76. He used to play 8 and lock. He played 64 games for the All Blacks, including 10 tests, and he went on to captain the All Blacks 3 times. He was part of a famous Marlborough team that won the Ranfurly Shield away from Canterbury back in 1973. The Marlborough province now obviously has been merged to create the Tasman province, but yes, a famous player for Marlborough, and our thoughts are with his family with his passing. And on a side note, it is not COVID related. Keeping in South Africa, and the All Blacks versus Springboks test this year was supposed to be taking place, and here we are. We're going to challenge Paul's pronunciations yet again in the Mbombela Stadium in Nelspruit, which is one of the smaller rugby provinces in South Africa, and they've said that this is a life or death for the hosts. We'll lose millions if this doesn't go ahead. Even if it goes ahead behind closed doors, it'll be it could help the union survive, they say. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The British and Irish Lions are also scheduled to go and play South Africa A in the same place, and the Mpumalanga Union will be hosting them. Now, the reason for that is that it is on the doorstep of Kruger National Park, and so a lot of the visitors will be going over there to see that. I'm guessing that this All Blacks game was going to be a bit of a warm-up for when the Lions arrived next year as a tester. They have a 41,000-seater stadium, So even the smaller unions have big stadiums available to them, which is quite impressive over there in South Africa. But we'll see how that one pans out. Finally, the big news from yesterday is that Sam Cane has been named as the new All Blacks captain by Ian Foster. He succeeds Kieran Reid. And I'll be honest, back in 2015, when he captained the All Blacks against, I believe it was Namibia, at the Rugby World Cup, it was then that I thought he had been earmarked to be Kieran Reid's successor in 4 years' time. That they were, and that long-term planning that we talk about with the All Blacks was in place there. There has been rumours or discussion recently as whether Sam Whitelock would take over, but no, Sam Cane has taken the reins. A couple of people asking about the timing of it, with the All Blacks not playing for a long time, potentially even up to a year. If you think about it, I think they will probably play towards the end of this year, but the outside date would be longer. But clearly, Ian Foster wants to provide some leadership for the team in what is turbulent times for a lot of the players, asking to be taking pay cuts and have other things on the line. So, yeah, congratulations to Sam Cane, who has been announced as the new All Blacks captain. And I'll hand you back to Stephen for an update on Rugby League.
Thanks again, Paul. In league news this morning, the Warriors needed special government exemption to get in the country, but are now the first NRL side to hit the training paddock, being put through their paces with military precision yesterday. While NRL rivals are due back for physical training on Wednesday, the Warriors quarantine camp in Tamworth has already swung into gear at Scully Park. Stephen Kearney's squad was split into 4 groups and shuttled through the field and gym sessions with as little contact with each other as possible. Captain Roger Tuivasa-Sheck reported that most of the players were blowing hard after their first training hit out. It ran pretty smoothly. We all trained in our groups today, Tuivasa-Sheck said. The Warriors' arrival in Tamworth has seen local rugby league roll out the red carpet for the Kiwi side, affectionately rebranding them the Tamworth Warriors for their 2-week stint in country New South Wales. Now, not going so good at the minute are the Melbourne Storm. The Melbourne Storm's preparations to restart the 2020 season have been dealt a big blow, with the NRL club barred from using council facilities in Albury. Now, Albury is on the border of New South Wales and Victoria and around 400 k's from Sydney. The decision was reached after the Albury City Council held a general meeting on Tuesday evening to discuss whether the Storm would be allowed to use the town as a training base due to Melbourne's current COVID-19 lockdown laws. With the councillors voting 5-4, the Storm will now train at the ground privately owned by the Albury Tigers, a local Australian AFL team. A spokesperson for the council said allowing the Storm to use the council's facilities would be a slap in the face to the rest of the community, given the strict lockdown laws in place. This is an unacceptable double standard that this proposal provides our community. Many of our residents have made tremendous sacrifices to keep the infection rate so low. People have lost their jobs. People have lost their businesses. People are unable to participate in their own community sport. They're unable to attend weddings and funerals, and it's a slap in the face to the people who have been doing the right thing for weeks. To elbow 50 people from Melbourne to come to use our public facilities with the same rules not applying to them. And finally, the presence of the Storm being in the town also raised the risk of infection within the community. So there we have it. Not everybody completely happy about some of these NRL teams dropping into their little outback towns. And that's the league news for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more.
Go on, Osman.
Just in light of what Steve's just finished there with the community sort of not exactly 100% on board with the league sides. I actually had this exact same scenario on my Facebook feed last night and yesterday. Sorry, not last night, but and when it was long and it was actually numerous in terms of the number of people that sort of saying, well, hang on, we've got all these people in lockdown. People can't go to funerals, can't go to see a terminal with cancer and the like, and yet we can have these sports stars going over to play sport. And where's the priorities and where's the community sort of safety element? So it's not unanimous in terms of all the community wanting to see sports start up or giving special preferential treatment.
Ashwin, I was going to say, you can see the other difference though with Tamworth. They've pretty much opened with opening arms the Warriors in their town, and it's given the town a little bit of a spark, if you know what I mean. So that's the other side to the story. So maybe there's opportunities there as well. But hey, listen, every little town is in pretty much entitled to their own guidelines. So it's a real interesting one. But it sets to me the question of whether the start date of May 28th really will happen.
No, I didn't get involved in the pile-on, but I agree with Tamworth, the city of Tamworth, in terms of the fact is that sport's always been there to lift the morale of people. Whether it's the success or just the sport that takes place, it does lift the morale of a community, and Tamworth's showing that.
Absolutely, and you got to remember also they are going to isolation for 14 days before these things. If you had to try and do that for funerals or weddings, I'm not sure if the logistics are possible for those sort of events, whereas the logistics are possible for this. But as you say, that's a rabbit hole that we perhaps don't want to go down in too deep
in the sports briefing.
In our sports briefing. Moving on to America's Cup news and another sport that's taking a bit of a risk, because the United States challenger American Magic has put its yacht into a container and has shipped it over to New Zealand. It will arrive here in about 35 days, at which point they're hoping that their sailors can follow. And will they get special dispensation to get into New Zealand to do that? They have got some staff already here in New Zealand, but as I say, they're looking. They have put their boat into a container. They believe now with the cancellation of 2 events in Europe that actually the best place to be is in New Zealand and testing under New Zealand conditions. We heard the other day that Luna Rosa, the Italian syndicate, is testing in Italy, and they're looking at staying there and doing that and then moving over later. The British syndicate is at the moment has a boat at the moment in Portsmouth, and they are weighing up which routes to take. Will they send the boats to New Zealand and all their staff here and train here, or will they continue their development and training in Portsmouth? At the moment, they're weighing that one up. With those cancellations of those events and it going straight just to the main event in the latter part of this year, the struggling Californian syndicate Stars and Stripes may be able to make it now that now they don't have to have the extra expense of those events in Europe. You would have to say that in a sport that is so technically based and so research driven, the chances of them actually winning it would be pretty slim. But you never know, and we may have an extra challenger for the America's Cup. Moving on to Formula One news, and we announced yesterday that they were discussing 145 million salary cap. That has now been reduced to 130 million over the next 3 years. The teams have to go away and discuss this before voting on the proposal. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. There's a bunch of details around that. It's not just simply a number, but there's certain amounts for aerodynamics and for other sorts of costings. So it'll be interesting to see whether the teams will agree with that or not. The Tour de France now looks like its date will start now on the 29th of August. We had said that it was due to start at the end of July, but with all major events in France cancelled until the end of July, that would have meant about a 3-day overlap. So it looks like the Tour de France will now take place from the 29th of July through till the 20th of September. This means that the Giro d'Italia and the Volta a España will overlap, with the Giro d'Italia looking to run between the 3rd and the 25th of October, and the Volta a España between the 20th and the 8th of November. Those are the 3 biggest, although those are the 3 grand tours of the season, and it's unprecedented for them to overlap like that, or at least in recent memory. Clearly, that's going to impact the fields, because not only will they have just finished the Tour de France on the 20th of September, so only about 10 to 15 days before the Giro d'Italia starts. But there are also those 2 overlapping. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of fields they can put together. We've still got to wait to see about the when Strade Bianchi will take place, when the 5 monuments will take place, what's going to happen to the road championships, etc. So a lot of things could change over the next short while on the in cycling. But clearly, they're starting to get some sort of, or it looks like they're starting to get some sort of semblance as to what the end of the season is going to look like. And then finally, boys, we've had stories of soccer players, and we've had stories of league players breaking social distancing rules. But the NFL, or in particular, Rokan Smith, takes the biscuit. He has been seen, and he has taken photos of himself and put it on social media. That's of him partying with a porn star on a boat, and a number of other girls as well. So, boys, anything you can do, we can do bigger and better. Is the message from the States there with that one. I don't know if you've seen the photos of Rokan Smith hanging out with and having bottles of champagne poured down his throat. It seems like it's party time over there. He is obviously got a lot of negative press about this. He's a linebacker, I think it was for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So clearly, as Hugh says in the chat, it's a tough life for some. That means you have now started the day the best way, up to date with all the important sports news. Don't forget, we have this evening, we have Do You Know Sports at 8 p.m. And then tomorrow evening, as Ashwin said, we're hopefully looking to get a special guest in for the Swinging from the Hip, our cricket show at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Today at 2 p.m. We have got our long talk, and a special one. We have 2 guests on today. We have the Hawke's Bay head coach and assistant coach for that discussion at 2 o'clock today. So that'll be an absolute treat. And don't forget, obviously, we'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning with the morning sports briefing here live on the Facebook page, or you can listen as you go about your daily chores on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Acast, and all your favourite podcatchers as well, if you prefer to listen rather than watch. Thank you very much, Ashwin and Stephen, for joining me. Thank you very much for everyone who has supported the show supported the channel over our first month of existence.